Hey there, young historians. We are back with Lunchroom Fight Part 2. Now, in Part 1, we focused on sourcing. We really paid attention to who said what, and what their background was, what their perspective was, what their bias was, who was the source of that information. And we talked about how the two accounts, or many accounts, on the same event could be different. And if no one was lying, how is that very possible? Like, how could everybody be telling the truth but have very different accounts of the story? We also talked about how or why one account might be more reliable or trustworthy than another. Now, today we're going to be focusing on some evidence from the eyewitnesses, like what they saw and what they actually did. So in the first one, we had, the Spider-Man story. We're moving that one aside. We're done with Spider-Man. We're going to have now a different version of a lunchroom fight. And we're going to be looking at the eyewitness accounts. Your job as the principal will still be to figure out who should be suspended for their role in that fight. So in this one, we'll be using some sourcing and some corroboration, but we're going to be using a new word, and that word is called contextualization. That is a long word, I know. That has got 1, 2, 3, 4, more than 10 letters in that word. But let's just break it down to the word context. And the idea here is to put something in context, and sometimes things are taken out of context. You maybe heard that phrase before, like, oh, it was taken out of context. That's not what I really meant. That's what we're thinking about here. I'll give you an example. A 2-word phrase, let's go. Now, you could say it this way, hey, the game's about to start, let's go! Which means, like, I'm excited, the game's gonna go, we can't wait to watch it, it's gonna be fun. But what if I said it this way? Oh, the game's about to start, let's go. Different meaning, right? It's in a different context. I could be either excited about the game or bored by the prospect of watching a football game or a sport or whatever. So I could say, let's go, or let's go. All right, so different context. So contextualization means, or these are the questions you'd be asking, when and where was the document created? When was it created and where was it created? That matters. What was different back then or what was the same back then? You maybe heard that kind of phrase where someone's like, oh, things were much different back then. Or 100 years ago, yeah, things were different back then. Yeah, for sure. And what else was going on during that event? What else was happening around that same time? An event could happen in history in the middle of a war. That is very different than an event happening during peacetime. Or an event could happen when the economy is doing great and everyone's making money, or it could be when there's a depression in the economy and people are really poor. So context matters, and so we're going to be practicing putting things into contextualization. So, lunchroom fight part 2. It's going to look like this. I'm going to give you the background. You are the principal again. You're trying to figure out the truth about a lunchroom fight. The fight was between Justin and Max. Justin is a new student. He's shy, he's quiet, he doesn't have many friends yet. He moved to town last month because his father was hired to take over the town's main business. Now, Justin's father fired many people, including Max's parents, when he was reorganizing the business. So he came in and fired a bunch of people. Now, Max is a popular student. He's known for his friendliness and his good humor. In the past few weeks, however, he's been withdrawn and somewhat depressed. So in this one, we'll be using some corroboration and sourcing. We'll also use contextualization. We'll hear the evidence from these different witnesses, and you'll have to make a decision at the end of who you think you should suspend. Okay, that'll be your choice. So again, corroboration, sourcing, and now just a little bit of a contextualization sprinkled in there, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, young principals, good luck with this one and have fun.